1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Royal Blue Podcast live. Monday show live. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Royal Blue Podcast live. Hello and welcome to the Royal Blue Podcast. It is the Monday show. We are live and I am your host Ian Croll. Joining me in the Royal Blue studio today to talk all things Everton, we've got the return of Gav Buckland. Gav, how are things? All good?
Fine, Ian, yeah. Just a bit sleepy after staying up late last night. It was a bit of a weird time to watch football, wasn't it, really, late of a Sunday evening?
It was one of the better times. It wasn't a half 11 kick-off like it was against West Ham.
I tell you what, the Premier League had the way over the schedule of games in future. You might see Premier League games kicking off at 10 p.m. of a Sunday, so we have to be careful here, don't we? But it was a bit weird, wasn't it?
Yeah, we can't like it too much.
No. But this is, we're going to go off on a tangent again here, but, the kick-off times for next year and,
8 o'clock the latest at the moment.
Yeah, and, it's going to be a bit of a mess, isn't it, really?
Well, I mean, again, we, like you say, don't want to go off on a tangent, but Dave Powell, our Business of Football writer, has said this repeatedly, that they're trying to gear Premier League football towards the American market, and that is one way of doing it.
Yeah, and I mean, know why that is, because half the Premier League is owned by Americans, isn't it, really? And that will grow in the future. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? How many? Tell you what, not for discussion later on, not today. How many 3 p.m. Saturday games do you think we'll have at Bramley Moore next year? Be that bad? I'm going to go with 3.
Well, 2 have already changed so far for home ones. I know the
yeah.
Villa game's still 3 p.m. Saturday, so look forward to that one.
Yeah. That's unusual, isn't it? You think that'll be live? But yeah, I reckon 3 or 4. Yeah, it'd be interesting. We have to get used to all these mad kick-off times.
Yeah, we will. Well, just me and you on today, Gav. We've got
plenty to talk about, though, haven't we? Yeah.
No, Chris Beasley, who is still gallivanting off around America.
Must mention I got Chris's book. He sent me a copy over the weekend. Glad you received it. Looks fab. I'll give that a good read. And by the way, I always like to mention people who come to me and say they listen to the Royal podcast and like it. Don't mention the people who don't like it. Nobody's ever said that, actually.
I'm going to say it to your face, Gav.
Rob, who helped source me a tin of frosted steel paint for my kitchen the other week.
Quite niche.
It was very complimentary about the podcast, so thanks for that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think if you can see on my right-hand shoulder, if you're watching live on YouTube, that Chris's book, The Spirit of the Blues, I literally come into the office this morning to a package with my name on it, and that's Chris's book there.
Moyes, he looks fresh-faced and youthful there, doesn't he?
A lot better compared to what he looked like last week.
Yeah, he's obviously... That was before he found out about his lack of transfers, I think. But yeah, no, it's great cover, that, isn't it? It just shows you, really historical people there, isn't it? With Everton concerned.
Well, like I say, Chris is still travelling out and about in America, so when he's back, I'm sure we'll do a podcast or a special show dedicated to his book.
I just listened to the podcast he did. Was it yesterday in Atlanta with the Evertonians and they were good. That fella lived over there, watched Everton in the 60s. Cool, that, isn't it?
Wow.
It just shows you that people around the world, you always think that as people abroad, they just got onto the Premier League being popular, but there's a lot of people abroad who've watched Everton donkeys years ago who've moved over, and that's really cool,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, obviously, as I mentioned then, it is just you and me, Gav, the usual suspects. Chris away, Connor's off, Tony, Scott's unavailable, and And Joe has
Tony's
gone into
on the
hiding. I think Joe since last podcast last week.
He was last night. Joe was working last night, wasn't he?
I think he's gone into hiding after last week's podcast. To be
honest.
After
you scared him off after your little.
I've seen a couple of the comments on the YouTube channel.
No, great comments, wasn't it? This is what we need: more fights in the future.
It was, but there was a lot of saying, "Oh, that host's quite aggressive" and stuff like that. I think they obviously didn't realise what we were.
There was,
trying to do.
There was quite an that's good. I mean, it's what you want. I mean, you want diverse views, don't you? You know, you've got to have disagreements as long as it doesn't end up in a punch up.
It would be boring if everything was too agreeable.
There was a point last Monday when I thought you were going to go all NJ and Fernandez on us. Yeah, you see, they had a little bit of a bundle yesterday.
No, do you know what it was? It was all in good fun, but Joe said that I was being negative, and it couldn't have been.
So he's still going on about it. He's not here to defend himself.
Well, he's gone into hiding. What do you want to say?
You might phone the studio. Your mobile phone might go off in half an hour.
No, he hasn't really gone into hiding. Obviously, messing.
He had a late shift last night, didn't he, Joe?
He's off, and he will be back.
Yeah.
So today's agenda, obviously much improved from Everton last night against United in the final Premier League Summer Series match. So we will talk about that. As usual, some transfer news on the agenda. So we'll discuss David Moyes' recent comments and two topics that we didn't have time to discuss on Friday's show with Tony and Connor. Everton women's team and match day ticket prices. And to be honest, Gav, this is probably more down your alley, really, isn't it? Those two topics. So we will make sure that we find some time for that today.
Yeah.
I know we're not going to go into major detail about it, but it just brings a discussion to it either way, doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, as always, give us a thumbs up and drop us a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Support, as always, is greatly appreciated. And as mentioned, we are live, so get your comments in and get your questions in. If you're watching on the live stream, obviously start with United, Gav. I did feel like it was much improved. We were just talking before we came on air then, and even though we went 1-0 down to obviously a contentious penalty, there was a point in the second half, even when we were 1-0 down, I was about to text a couple of friends and go, I think we're actually playing okay here. Within 5 minutes, we scored a really good goal. Pressed high up the pitch, won the ball back high up the pitch. I think it was Mikalenko with the cross. Sorry, Mikalenko won the ball.
Back to won the
Gay,
ball.
Gay put the cross in, and a fantastic finish from Ndai. So I know we conceded with a decent Mason Mount goal, but equalised with a bit of a bizarre own goal.
Yeah.
But performance-wise, I think Everton and Moyes would take a lot out of that.
Yeah. I mean, we say about results, do they count in pre-season? You know, I don't think a bad result counts. You know, that's about a series of bad results. You know, you possibly get a little bit irritated over, but it was good to see a good performance last night in a draw. We got a point, and Moyes was happy after the game, I think. But you know, we said the players were a lot fitter. He was contractually obliged to say, "Well, we still haven't got enough players," but we'll talk about that in a bit. I thought it was quite interesting to see that we had 6 players who started all 3 games. I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. To be honest with you, it gives them extra fitness, doesn't it, for the start? And the downside is it means that other players maybe have not got the minutes that they need. Barry be one of them, won't it? Much improved. Tactically, we look far more at it and organised than what we've done in the previous 2 games. There was a clear plan, and most of the players adhered to that plan. I mean, I don't know about you. I looked at it like, it was like 4-1-4-1, wasn't it? Where Garner was like sort of sweeping, wasn't he, behind, just in front of the back 4. And then Garner, and then we played 4 in front, which was like Iraburum. He's put on a bit of beef, hasn't he? Noticed Guy, Charlie, and then Jai, and then and Betto up front. So it was like a 4-1-4-1. I was looking at it when you looked at the shape on the TV. And that led to the goal, didn't it? Because we pressed far higher up the pitch, didn't we, as a consequence. But you got 4 players behind the striker. And that meant that when we won the ball back, Gay was there, wasn't he, to put the cross in. And NJ's finish, great finish. Shades of his goal to City, I think, last season, wasn't it? And I thought we were fine. And when you would go 2-1 behind in the second half, I think.
Disappointing.
They bring on a load of players. Think, oh no, this could become awkward. We were unsettled for a bit, but we finished strongly. I must admit, I'm going to hold my hand up. I didn't realise Charlie Onyongo was still at the club, to be fair, because he's been on the periphery for a number of years, hasn't he? And he had an interesting 20-25 minute cameo, and their goal, I'm still trying to work out how it went in. You know, Our goal, sorry, it was their goal, I suppose.
Couple of ricochets.
Yeah. You know, what's that? That got in. And fully said 2-2. And I was pleased. Players looked fitter. There was a bit more cohesion, far more of a starting plan in terms of the setup of the team. A few players played much better, Gone being one of them. O'Brien, I thought, looked a bit more comfortable right back and always looked at centre half. Tarkowski, who sometimes I criticise, coming back always helps us. And it was a positive experience, wasn't it? And it's good to end on a positive, isn't it? On the three games on the tour, is you can see. That's what I was saying a couple of weeks ago, isn't it? You want to see development, don't you, on the pre-season? And you can see the development there last night compared to the previous two games. It was night and day, wasn't it? Compared to what we've seen before.
If you look at the overall tour in terms of the results, they haven't been good, but people quickly forget that we played very well against Bournemouth in the first half, and the reason we probably conceded two shocking defensive mistakes. Even the West Ham game, we conceded a shocking a goalkeeper mistake as well, didn't we? Has the criticism or negativity surrounding this tour been justified in your view? Because obviously the results haven't been good, but there has been mitigating circumstances for that. The biggest one being, we know we need to bring a number of players in to improve the quality of the squad. However, three of our central defenders were missing for the first game, so it was a makeshift back four. And then slowly a couple of players started to get back together, but obviously I don't think we were fully at the races against West Ham anyway.
No, we were 1-0 against West Ham, weren't we? I think negativity, what you do, you're fusing two things there together, aren't you? On-field performance and off-field travails when the transfer market become joined together, don't we? And Moyes has done that, hasn't he? He said performances have been affected by the fact that we haven't been able to bring players in. So I don't think you can separate the two. I think as a tour, it's always good to see loads of Evertonians, isn't it? And the lots of blue shirts in American cities. I always think that's great to see. I think I would look back on it a little bit of progress based on what you saw last night. To be honest with you, the negativity I think comes from the absence of the bringing new players in, and how that's impacted our performances. We've had to give lots of game time to players. And as Moyes has said, and as you just said there, game time to players in the wrong positions, certainly against Bournemouth. So I can understand the negativity, but at the same time, we finished okay last night. Good. I sort of thought it was quite just an interesting tactical shift he did last night. That 4-1 for large portions of the game. I thought Betto was. I don't know whether you seen it. Saying last night that he's the best finisher of offside goals in history, isn't he? I mean, he's just do
you know what though?
Fantastic.
That offside, which was offside, it was very close. Don't get me wrong. It's not like he was miles offside.
Yeah.
So there's been a couple of occasions, certainly over the last couple of games of last season, where you think, why are you making that run? Because you're absolutely miles offside. So look, there was a lot of negative comments centered around Betto last night on social media, and I'm obviously going to be the first one to defend him. I don't necessarily think, because I still think he's got something to give to the team. I think we started to play to his strengths when Moyes came
playing
in.
him behind the defender and stuff, and he gone. And
I just think this pre-season tour we haven't maybe naturally been able to play to his strengths because it's been balls into feet a lot of the time, and when that ball goes over to the left hand side of the field, because there's not really much attacking threat from the right, so it's easy for the opposition to kind of defend. You just let an end eye just kind of do everything, and he's probably going to lose it more often than not. He's got fantastic skill, ability to keep hold of the ball, take people on, even win the duels that he's fighting against. But he can't do it all himself. So I think in terms of in keeping it to targeting Betto, there was a couple of times where we tried to play it in behind last night, certainly for the offside goal, and that's just how he's going to be able to play.
I think under Moyes his hold-up play has improved, hasn't it? And his awareness of people around him. That is undoubtedly the case.
Wasn't great last night, though.
No. I just wonder about Betto. You get this, don't you? Sometimes players just take ages to get their touch. When they come back off pre-season, some come back and it's seamless, isn't it? You get the impression with Betto, I think because of the nature of his game and the way he plays, he needs several games to get up to scratch. And as you say, not having service, not certainly from out wide, doesn't help. And you hope that he will kick on over the next couple of games. It's interesting to see Moyes was critical of him, wasn't he, in the pre-match on NBC? He was, which is quite unusual for Moyes. And I suppose pre-season is slightly different to during the season, isn't it? Criticising players, but he did say, didn't he? He called them out for what he thought was substandard performance in the first.
He's very critical of a lot of players.
He said he was quite he credited Garner, didn't he, after last night? But he said that he hadn't been happy with Garner's first 2 performances. So it was just interesting, Moyes criticising him.
Is it just a kick up the backside though? Was that just an overriding frustration that obviously results haven't gone well in pre-season?
If you think there's a lot of weight on Betto's shoulders at the moment,
I think so. Yeah, a lot of pressure.
Hell of a lot of weight. I mean, Chimiti's just appears to have, I wouldn't say disappeared from view, but we had high hopes for him this time last season before he got injured, didn't he?
He's only made cameos really, and he's done okay a little bit, but not spectacular.
And Barry is obviously a work in progress. I mean, Moyes, I think, alluded to the fact that his fitness is way behind because he played in the Euros. So going into the new season, unless we bring a new striker in, which is unlikely, is Betto. There's a hell of a lot riding on his shoulders in terms of being the focal point of the attack, in terms of holding play up as a lone striker, and also being a goal scorer as well, and of which he's got half a season's experience under Moyes. So, I think Moyes is probably right to give him a little bit of stick, but behind the scenes, hope he's working with him. He's a good lad, Betto, isn't he? And we all we want him to do well, but there's a hell of a lot of weight on his shoulders.
I think the criticism was a little bit harsh, to be honest. And the reason that I'll say that is because, forget the fact that he struggles to hold the ball up. Why are we giving him the ball to hold the ball up? Because we haven't got a midfielder who can control the ball, basically keep hold of possession. So that's why when you see him through on goal, shoulder the last defender, that's where he's at his most dangerous. So, in theory, I know this is not always going to be the case. In theory, you would always be looking to just thread the ball to Betto over the top and stuff like that.
Or from out wide.
Well, yeah, obviously, look at the goal that Ndiaye scored. I know it was a little bit further in, but it came from a cross, didn't it? That's why we're so desperate for at least one, hopefully 2 players who are comfortable enough on the ball to be able to pass it around in the middle of the park. I don't think we've got that. And also as well,
a Decore type figure who can play off him, as a sort of supporting striker. So, I mean, that's unresolved, isn't it, this season, about who's going to play that role. So there is assistance for him there. I know what you're saying is, play to his strengths, but if you're playing a lone striker, especially the way Moyes plays, is you're going to work hard. You're going to work hard.
I think he does.
He works hard.
He doesn't stop running.
And he, his game, isn't he? He tries. He was unlucky, wasn't he, yesterday? Did you see the one where the ball was played? I think it was the corner where the AO run out and it was played back in, and Michael Keane got in his way. I think Keane was offside, wasn't he? And Betto was running on from an onside position.
There was a couple of those, though, wasn't where he got in good positions. It happened with Alcaraz as well.
Didn't he? When Alcaraz went across the penalty area. And that is just unlucky.
I'll tell you what, he's getting in these positions, isn't he?
Yeah.
The last thing you want is a striker who's not getting in those positions. So, for me, you are right. It's probably taken him a little bit of time.
I think so. I think he's one of them players.
Up and running.
Yeah.
So, the biggest thing for me is, Barry's going to take a little bit of time as well. You're looking at him being the main striker, maybe towards the back end, middle of the season, maybe even next season, depending on how long it takes. But will Betto score his goals? I think the answer
depends on service.
That's what I mean. It will. And let's face it, makeshift teams of the past 2 games, it's going to be difficult for your striker to create opportunities himself.
He's not one who's going to pick it up in just outside the centre circle and run in and.
He's not that type of player. He hasn't got that quality, has he? He might be able to take the ball around the man and beat him for pace.
Yeah.
And we've seen that against Liverpool, where he's done it against Van Dijk and stuff like that. But in terms of technique on the ball, it's quite clearly not. He needs the ball in front of him to run onto.
Absolutely. But at this went back to goal, his play has improved and his awareness and his passing has, but it still needs development. I'd argue at 26, 27 how much you can do there. It was just an interesting comment from Moyes, but it does reflect that I think he is certainly a single point of failure, isn't he? Because if he was injured, this sounds like negative. So, we have to flag up, don't we? If he got injured early on the season, well, what are your options there?
He seems robust, though, as well.
Yeah.
Unlike
one or 2 others. Yeah. I think it's a big season for him. said before on the pod as well, is psychologically it's different for him, isn't he? He's always been the support, the number 2, hasn't he? And I think when you become the main striker, or in any position, the main person, which he was at Udinese, it's a slightly different vibe, isn't it? You know,
I don't think anyone
the
can.
The responsibility is a lot greater.
No one can argue that he took his chance last season to be the main Everton striker this season, unless Everton going to go out there and sign. I'm trying to think of and just use this as an example, like an Ollie Watkins who would come in and you spend a lot of money on, but we haven't. We've gone out there, we've spent a significant amount of money. Don't get me wrong, £27 million on someone who hopefully is going to be elite in the next couple of years. So Betto, with Calvert-Lewin leaving the club and Schmidt being nowhere near the level that we need him to be at this moment in time, he's earned his place as Everton's number.
Undoubtedly.
Whether it's Everton's number 9, but certainly Everton's main striker.
Well, he is number 9, isn't he, at the moment? Yeah, which is significant. Yeah, I agree. But it's psychologically, it's a different way of looking at things for him. But we've got to get stuff out wide, haven't we? Because he's decent in the air, Betto. You can look a bit uncoordinated. But was it the Southampton goal? Was he scored a great header against Southampton? Was it disallowed? Is that just me making it up? Remember in the last game of the season?
We'll have to ask our audience to remind us. I can't remember that one.
But yeah, I think it's all about service, isn't it? And we've got to get the service right, and that gets us back to transfers and so on.
I mean, we'll come on to James Garner and Jake O'Brien in a sec, but just to read out one of Moyes' quotes from post-match last night. It was a better performance, but we had a team which was more equipped to have a chance of being more competitive. We were nowhere near in the first and second game. We didn't have players fit, and tonight I thought we played much better. Now, I had a big debate last week with you and Joe with regards to whether the squad was better. Now, I maybe needed to rephrase it better, and I think I did clarify it in a way. I feel that the core group of players that we've got are still there with one or two upgrades. Now, the squad, obviously, is nowhere near what it needs to be. Yeah. We know that. But for me, against the United team, who are clearly still got quality players, but still nowhere near where they need to be, it's still a tough game. It's still a tough team to play.
Well, two players who are probably worth more than the squad we had on the pitch,
exactly.
In Bueno and
so does that not prove that the core group that we've kept together is still there and still capable of being competitive?
Yeah. Not. I wouldn't say over the basis of one friendly game, but you can.
No, but you see me point out.
Last week. I know what you're saying. I think what you're saying last week was where we've made improvements, they're better improvements than what we had. I think you can see. I don't know if I was talking to Connor last night, and he made the point that, even if Moyes gets players in now, he's probably not going to play them at the start of the season because he wants them to be fit. So and I think that's probably a valid point. And I've probably taken a point away that you probably won't make in the podcast, but I think what you saw last night is probably going to close to our starting 11 against Leeds. Okay,
well, we'll come on to a nice point then. You're right. I do think that is probably the case. Jake O'Brien then starting as the right back.
I'm not got a problem with that.
Neither have I. Nathan Patterson obviously played the first 2 games, hasn't particularly covered himself in glory. Moyes has come out since afterwards.
He's got a potential hernia, hasn't he?
Because I worried for him, really did. I thought that would be absolutely brutal, even if he wasn't injured and he just wasn't in the squad, because it's not as if we didn't have spaces to put him in. So he has, Moyes has clarified that he was injured. But let's face it, Everton seemed to play or be a lot more defensively solid when Jake O'Brien came in at right back. So is he the right back? I think what I'll do, I'll ask you a question here because we've got a question.
He should have scored last night, shouldn't he, O'Brien?
Oh God, hit the post.
Yeah.
Well, and he put a great cross in in the West Ham game as well. Yeah, very low.
He can cross O'Brien. I mean, I think sometimes he can play too deep when we've got the ball on the right hand side and not support the winger. But he has got a decent dig on him, in terms of crossing ability. And I would have no problem with O'Brien starting right back on the opening day of the season, to be fair.
Well, we've got a question here from Lewis Dada, who says at the start of the podcast, we want more of your podcasts, please. So we'll try our best. Lewis, but he's also put in a really legitimate question, actually, which I was thinking about asking myself, and he's obviously read my mind. If Jake O'Brien is to be the permanent right back, certainly for this season, does that mean we need to buy
Another centre half.
Yeah.
So in other words, you buy another centre half than a right back.
I think you can look at it both ways. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to it.
No.
Because I don't think Nathan Patterson is going to have a future
think-
at Everton.
no.
So he either goes out on loan. I don't know what we're going to be able to attract in terms of a fee. Either way, you know.
But I don't think he will get. I mean, his wages are probably going to put off a lot of suitors, aren't they? And his injury record.
Yeah.
He hasn't got a. No, it sounds awful, but in terms of a saleable asset, he should be, but actually isn't. But that's beside the point.
He goes out on loan, Patterson. So say that is the scenario.
Yeah.
O'Brien then automatically becomes the number one right back at the club. Through merit, by the way, through just because he's played very well there. It leaves us with two gaping holes in a way. It leaves us with we need a backup right back, or we need a fourth choice centre back, basically.
Yeah. Or they might just go with the three and muddle
Can
through.
you though?
But we've been muddling through there for ages, haven't we? I mean, Garner
Just
can play
about-
right back. I think Moyes was talking about this, wasn't he? About Garner's versatility. Afterwards, let's wait and see. I mean, you would guess that they still want a right back as a priority, wouldn't you? You would think it's not ideal. I mean, O'Brien's views on this would be insistent, wouldn't he? Really?
Well, he's come out and said he'd be happy to do that. He's already said that.
Well, I mean, if you're O'Brien, if you're going with our first choice partnership is still going to be Tarkowski and Brandwaite, even though Brandwaite's got injured. Encouraging to see Tarkowski back, by the way.
Yeah.
Because we were saying at the end of last season that he might not be fit for the start of this coming season. If they're our first choice, then O'Brien gets on the pitch, doesn't he? Right back. So he'd probably prefer playing right back than being on the subs bench as a substitute centre half, wouldn't he? Of course he would. So yeah, I think I've said all along, I've not got a problem with O'Brien playing right back.
I just think we look so much more of a better defensive unit with O'Brien as the right back at this moment in time.
We've always done that.
I know people argue, well, he's not a right back, and you know he will eventually want to move to centre back, but it's a team game. He's already come out publicly and said he'd be more than happy to fill in when needed. We just haven't got anyone there who can play right back to a level that we need them to at this moment in time.
No.
Other than
And
O'Brien.
I think he did well. And when the ball, it's what Moyes did quite well last season. When the ball shifts over to the left hand side and he moves across, he ends up playing in the middle, doesn't he? You know, moving into the middle where he's a big unit, isn't he? As we know, tall fullbacks are, very much de rigueur, aren't they, in the Premier League? Yeah, I've not got a problem with that, but it just shows and shines a light on the fact that we're still short of numbers, aren't we?
And very quickly, just on James Garner, a lot of praise for him. But again,
Played
another
very
player who divides opinion. We've said this so many times on the podcast, playing in a slightly different role. Ironically, I know it doesn't always work out like this, but the ball that Gay put into and die for the goal, you would expect that to come from Garner.
Because Gay was playing more of the holding role last year, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but maybe, you don't know, I mean, maybe Moyes is hiding a few things, for the start of the season. In terms
just not
of
his frustration.
Tactically, yeah, that's the difference. We'll come on to that, won't we? Maybe he may think that actually Garner, given his age and his profile, whether actually, if he plays him a bit further forward, he may have to do less running. Than playing covering defensive midfielder where he perhaps needs to move, like Garner did last night, move up and down the pitch and to wide areas and stuff. He may, where he's always been like a sort of go-getter, hasn't he, Guy? He may want, given his age, that actually he may want him to play possibly a little bit further forward to save his legs. So he's not scampering around the pitch. And it was a great cross, wasn't it, really? That was his first time cross, wasn't it, I think? Or thereabouts, yeah. It was a great cross, great pick at the far post, great finish. And I'm just wondering whether he might want to give him a different role this year when he plays, which means he can save his legs a little bit. And I thought Garner played well.
I thought everyone played well, to be honest. I thought everyone had a decent game.
What do you think of Charlie's form at the moment?
Seen a lot of people criticising him. This goes back to my point with regards to Decore leaving and Alcaraz kind of being the replacement. Now, they are not a like for like in terms of how they play the game. They're just not. But in reality, Alcaraz is filling in that position for Doucouré. But in doing that, we're not going to play the exact same way as we would if Doucouré was in that team. So it's not really about how changing how Alcaraz plays. It's changing how we play as a team, and that comes to being able to keep hold of the ball for long periods of time. I'm not saying we need to dominate possession, but this all links in with Betto when the ball is coming to his feet.
We've got players in and around
and
to lay the ball off.
It pings off him.
Yeah.
In a way, you do, or not in a way, you do want your striker to be able to hold up the ball. I'm not saying you don't, but you also want your players around them. Like you said before, it worked with Doucouré there to an extent.
Yeah.
Alcaraz off the ball is probably not the player Doucouré is off the ball. Where is he?
In terms of being like putting your foot in and stuff like that.
Yeah, and maybe closing down. I'd love to see Doucouré's stats. I haven't got them in front of me of how much he closed down. You know, how many blocks did he win, interceptions, etc.
We closed down well yesterday, didn't we? With I thought Edabouman did okay, didn't he? He he's had a few question marks over him, hasn't he? Really, he started last season. He may get a lot more game time. What we're thinking of Edabouman.
Do you know what the thing with Edabouman? I felt like he was getting into good positions. He was making decent ground in terms of progressing the ball up the pitch. It was just when he got to that final bit, you always say, well, his final ball is a bit poor, but it was his decision making.
Yeah,
it's like he wasn't deciding what to do with the ball.
Was this last season or last night?
No, last night.
Yeah, or both.
So it's only based off one game.
Yeah.
It was almost like he wasn't making that final decision to even pass the ball.
Isn't that one of the things of pre-season? Is one of the things you learn is like the time when I've got lots of players. From what you see, not just Everton players, is just off, isn't it? Yeah. They play the ball into space, and that person's there. They overhit a ball, they underhit a ball. Everything's. To quote Blake's favourite phrases, not aligned, are they? The ball's fizzed in. There's nobody there, and the passer's played 2 yards behind somebody rather than 2 yards in front. So if that was Edabouman, then he's not alone there. Last night, though, that was far less apparent, wasn't it, with Everton? That'd been in the previous 2 weeks, was a little bit crisper. It still had pre-season feel, and it was a generally good performance, and Moyes was reasonably happy from what he said afterwards, wasn't he, really? Yeah.
He was definitely happy. I think as well with Edabouman, if you're gonna play him probably further up the pitch, the better at this moment in time.
Well, yeah.
You don't want him losing possession of the ball.
No.
Deeper,
like Armstrong, he's a young lad. I mean, that position is, if you're playing a deeper midfield role, you need somebody with experience. It's very difficult for a young lad to come in or an experienced player to come in and start dictating the play. It was noticeable, I think, last season. I'm pretty certain that when he come on as sub, he tends to play further up the pitch rather than play in front of the defence. So he'll get more game time, I think, at the start of this season. What you were believing at the end of last year, and he did okay, didn't he? So it's just be interesting to see tactically how he plays against Roma on at the weekend.
Just going off the agenda very quickly. So take this how you want, but according to Fabrizio Romano, Everton have submitted an official bid for Kieran Dewsbury-Hall.
Yeah, I've been after him for a while, haven't we? Yeah.
So I guess if you want to call that breaking news, he's been wrong about a lot of things about Everton.
Romano.
Yeah. Fair
Absolutely.
play to him, Fair play to him. But we'll
just count the money.
Very quickly then, Dewsbury-Hall there, was central midfielder. We're literally speaking about this topic now.
Exactly. I've not got a problem with that. He's been on the radar for a while. When we linked with him in January, I think that's the type of profile of players you want. So I think if you're moving on to transfers, Moyes said, didn't he, that he's expecting people this week. So it's obviously understands behind the scenes that deals are progressing, that we're not party to. Maybe this is one of them.
I mean, we're saying we move on to transfers. I haven't got any concrete names that we're being linked with other than the usual suspects.
Tyler, Dublin,
Diblin, Grealish, Fofana from Lyon. Obviously,
I'm not sure Fofana's going to happen.
No, but they're the names we've been linked with. I think when I say we're talking about transfers, we'll come on to it now. I mean, it's clearly not a good thing, but in terms of Moyes' frustration over how things have gone with transfers, let me read out 2 quotes, contrasting, I guess, one from last week and then another from last night. So Moyes clearly unhappy last week, frustrated with regards to how the transfers have progressed or stopped progressing. He said, truth is, we're not getting the deals done over the line. That's a fact. We're not getting a lot of deals done. We're hoping to. We're continually reassessing and moving on. We'll keep trying to get the best players we can. We're finding it very difficult at this moment in time. Whereas...
he said, didn't he? He used the word stalled, didn't he? He said, didn't he, things have stalled, which is quite an interesting phrase.
But this week, even before...
Yeah.
Well, sorry, I think that he said this on the back of the draw, which is probably he felt a bit more positive after the result.
Yeah.
I think there will be deals done next week. We're getting much closer.
Yeah. And then he said that, but then he said he added the riders to that then, didn't he? And said, but I was saying that 4 or 5 weeks ago. Yeah.
Okay.
But he looked more positive, didn't he?
But in terms of the frustration, it's not a good look, that, Gav, is it? Like,
we spoke about this last week to a degree about how the importance of pre-season results, does that influence, can that put players off joining? And there's a balance to be struck here, isn't there? I think a manager is within the right sometimes to publicly, air their grievances, but I think you can only do it once. I think if you do it more than once, then that becomes a narrative and that becomes a story then, doesn't it, really, which is what has happened. And before you know it, it's Everton in crisis, all this type of stuff. The club that nobody wants to join and all that, that type of thing, which happened in the mid-90s, by the way, after the cup. When you're trying to sign Collymore, you've got like Collymore and Chris Armstrong and people like that. And nobody wanted to join us. And that's the reputation we got for a while. He just has to be careful there, Moyes, between being a manager and speaking to fans, but also being a manager and using your press conferences to promote the club and sell the club and, make it look as though we know what we're doing and that we're attractive to players. I mean, somebody quite rightly said last week, I think in one of the comments on YouTube, that I think the word project was used and they were saying, don't use that word. It's such a cliche now, isn't it? Which is right. But, I can't think of a better phrase than sell the project under the Freakins, isn't it, really? I know that's probably Answacky, isn't it? And you've got part of his role is to do that, surely, isn't it? I think if you go off message a little bit and you go off message continually, and, we all know when Moyes has been known him 25 years, haven't we? Sometimes he can get a bit grumpy, can't he? And sometimes for good reason, yeah. But I think there's a balance to be struck there. And I think last week he went the other way. I think he went too far the other way of...
Yeah, I agree.
Of not painting the club in the true colours. Yeah, it's difficult. But you could just manage that, can't you? You could just say, the transfer window, it's like Kinnear said, didn't he? The transfer window's only up until mid-first week in September. Judge us then. So it's a long time. It's still 5 weeks or 4 weeks, isn't it? He could have balanced it out, couldn't he? He could have said, I'm not happy, but we've still got 4 weeks to do deals, that type of thing.
Do you see his comments then is a shot across the bows at the recruitment team and the Freakins?
But he's part of the recruitment team, isn't he?
Yeah.
That's the irony here. He is part of, and we've got 2 people who nominally would be on it who are on gardening leave at the moment. You're not there. So he is part of the decision-making process. Now, it may be that he's given the go-ahead for players and whoever's negotiating the deals can't do it. It sounds about right, doesn't it? But maybe, yeah, I get what you can do it once. I think you can mention it once, but don't mention it afterwards. That becomes that dangerous narrative. And I think he went the other way last week. I think personally, and he balanced it up a little bit last night, didn't he? Not totally, but he balanced it up.
I think it's a fascinating discussion because we've talked about this even before this has reared its ugly head.
We've had the 2 last Monday. I've done the 2 last Monday podcasts, I think, and this is what we've spoken about our recruitment, isn't it?
But it's the selling points of the club as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what you said there, I don't think players who are looking for another club and potentially coming to Everton look at pre-season results and go, God, just being beaten by Blackburn, I'm not going there.
Yeah.
But I think comments like that would put players off from coming.
I don't know if it puts players off, but it can generate its own momentum, can't it? Where all of a sudden Everton, as I say, look like the club that nobody wants to join. And I'm not sure whether that's the case, and certainly it's not the case under the Freakins. And I just think he went the other way a bit last week.
Do you think?
I'm not going to. I say I've not got a problem saying it once.
Yeah.
It's beyond that.
I don't think you need to say it though at all.
No, absolutely.
Do you think not just Moyes? Moyes is the front man, so he's come out and said a couple of things, and I know Angus Kinnear has done an interview, and he's literally said probably what you want to Moyes to say, judges at the end of the window.
Yeah.
Do you think Moyes or the recruitment team as a whole, or the club as a whole, have been a little bit naive heading into this transfer window? Now, I defended the club last week on the back of what Tony said. I don't think they've got a plan. I think that was what Tony said was wrong. I think they do have a plan.
Yeah.
I think they've gone out there and targeted high quality players, where previously we may have just accepted a mediocre, couple of signings. The problem where I see with that is I've got no problem in the club targeting these high quality players. That's what we want. We want players to come in and make an impact on the team. We don't want players to come in and just make up the numbers. But I find it interesting that Moyes, let me find the quote. He said,
he wants a Premier League proven players. He said in 25 above the at one stage.
He was asked last week in another question. I think it was Chris actually in the press conference. Are you surprised about transfer difficulties that Everton have had? And he came out and said, I was surprised. Everton is such a big club with new tradition. The new stadium is an exciting move. But then he went, on the other hand, you've got Everton who have been in a relegation position for the past 5 years. And when you look at it that way, maybe there's reasons for it, and that's the nail on the head,
because 9 clubs have got European competition, in the Premier League and stuff like that makes it difficult.
But what I mean by being naive is, as Moyes and the recruitment team thought, well, we're Everton, we can attract these players, and that's just being fans and us in the blue bubble.
Well, it's not one of the, I won't say false supporters, and I think most supporters tend to overestimate the reputation of their club. Like say big club and all this type of stuff, and people should join us wherever and all this type of thing. But, and lots of clubs are like that. Club supporters like that. But in reality, you're not. I mean, that's just part of fandom, isn't it? So we tend to overestimate our attractiveness because we're supporters and we're therefore biased. Where actually somebody from outside will look at it in a completely different way. I mean, Sherry got away with it, didn't he? Because they got all the targets 2016-17, because they probably paid them 50-60% more money than what they were expecting, weren't they? That's how we got deals over the line. Deacons look at it as more of a business, more business-like way. I'm not going to do that, which is good. But if you don't do that, you will find it difficult to attract players, won't you? Really, unless it's somebody, the younger group of players you'll see it as developmental pathway, and that's why it is difficult. But it's a difficult market at the moment, isn't it? For what Moyes was saying, but you do think in the last. The final few weeks of transfer when the things change, don't they? That all of a sudden there's players out there who've looked at their options, haven't got them, and maybe will find Everton far more attractive than what they did 3 or 4 weeks before.
Would there be a player out there who was waiting to make his decision, and he's not really in a rush because he knows that? Again, I've said this repeatedly. Let's use James McAtee as the example. He is playing for Manchester City, who've dominated English football for years. He's probably a little bit disappointed that he's going to have to move on from Man City, because I'm sure he wants to. If he had the first option, I'm sure he'd want to stay there, but he needs to play football. So is he waiting for a team in the Premier League who's in the Champions League to say, well, we'll take James McAtee? That team might not be forthcoming.
And Manchester City are also looking for a team who's going to pay the transfer fee they want. So there's 2 things there.
So there's a negotiation.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a negotiation tactic from both clubs. It's the same with Jack Grealish. Manchester City don't want Jack Grealish on their books for another season, as much as Everton don't want to pay £300,000 a week.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the longer this goes on, someone's gonna wilt in negotiations.
Yeah, of course. And that's been who blinks first, isn't it? That has been forever. The story transfer. When it comes to think of it, and they're going off on the transfer. When you talk about fake news, the transfer market was the first bastion of fake news, wasn't it? Going back 40 or 50 years ago, loads of stories put in paper, a sign of such and such. You knew it wasn't true, but you really believed it was.
That
And so it was way ahead of the time, wasn't it? The transfer market. But I do think fans, just generally at all clubs, overestimate the attraction of your club to an outsider, from an outsider, and I think that causes difficulty on occasions like it is now. And Moyes was quite straight talking there, wasn't he? Really, he's probably saying that as this, but I think sometimes there's a time and a place for that. And I'm not sure last week it was. To be fair, I think.
You can look at it like he's just being completely honest.
Yeah.
We've gone for these players that we think are going to improve the team. Obviously, it looks like Fofana was one of those players, but is he realistically going to want to come to Everton?
Of course he's not.
Well, probably not.
Yeah.
So that's my disappointment, and you can only take what's being said at face value. Moyes has come out and said, I was a bit surprised that we haven't been able to attract these players because, well, we're Everton, we're a big club, we've got great tradition. But you flip it on its head and you look at Brighton, use them as the
They've got a different recruitment model.
Well, that's what I mean. So Everton aren't, what they once were.
When? In his first, I mean, compared it to his first spell in charge. When
we weren't even able to attract big players when Moyes.
We couldn't afford them, could we? For the start,
I
that was the fair. But
I mean, I'm going back to like the 80s when Everton dominated English football and they were the top team. No, but I know that's a long time ago. But Moyes, obviously from his first stint, still sees Everton as a big club.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, is it? Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with that. But there's also there's a naivety to it as well. And I think fans. No, there is that fans.
There's naivety to fans.
But I think fans are onto it as well now. I think, don't get me wrong, we are a big club.
When you say onto what?
Say that again, sorry.
Onto what? Fans are onto what?
The fact that we can't attract the top big players.
Well, that's always been the case, hasn't it? But I think what it is, though, isn't it? And this is the thing compared to Moyes' first reign in charge. When we were 5th or 6th, weren't we? In terms of like clubs of fit, about 4th one year, 5th or 6th. In the
we would have qualified for the Champions League a good couple of years in a row.
If it wasn't for petrol money and stuff and Middle East investment, we would have done, wouldn't we? Really, which was Moyes was quite unlucky there, wasn't he? So, but where we are,
we've done a podcast on that on Everton's unluckiest manager. Sorry,
we never did that, did we? I think where we are in the hierarchy of English football is completely different to where we were in the even in Moyes' first reign, aren't we? Then we were 5th, 6th, 7th because attendances, all that type of stuff. But now, what? Where are we? 13th? 12th?
In terms like of that. How big we are in terms of attracting
if you have a look where income is now, we're on. I know that'll go change next year, but the likes of West Ham, Newcastle, Aston Villa, who were all behind us 20 years ago, maybe West Aston Villa, let's say. Not Newcastle, weren't probably. But in terms of, being attractive, we were equally as attractive as Newcastle and Aston Villa 20 years ago.
Yeah, I completely agree.
But we're not now. And West Ham.
I'd still put them on par with us, if not,
if not higher.
They're just having a good moment at this moment
they've had a lot of external investments and stuff like that. Aston Villa have had loads, haven't they? So we've gone from being 5th or 6th on the hierarchy, as we were from 2006 to 2013, to being 12th or 13th, I would argue. And that's been the case for several years. So that's it. Of course, it changes the way players look at you and other clubs look at you. But unfortunately, that's Moyes' job, isn't it? To manage that, isn't he? That's what he's come back to. Well. Yeah.
I just hope
we're always a selling. Every club's a selling club unless you're Real Madrid,
I just want cohesion in the back room on the recruitment team. You don't want petty shots, across the bow. Did
you view that Moyes' comment like that then last week as a petty shot?
Petty is probably the wrong word. I think it was a frustrated,
a warning shot.
I don't even think it was a warning. I just think, again, it's just a little bit naive that we've gone out there and thought we're going to be able to attract these players. That if you're going to do that, you're going to have to spend big money. You're going to have to give Fofana as the example an offer he can't refuse. And quite clearly, we're not going to be able to do that.
Which is what we did under Machedi, didn't we? I think Moyes probably knew the market. I do think one of the issues for us is it's a new setup, isn't it? People have never worked together in their lives. They might have known each other.
That's why I'm willing to give it time.
Yeah. So you've got like Hammond, Kinnear, the CEO, Hammond, Moyes, Howarth, isn't he? He's the data guy.
Yeah.
But you've not got the James Smith from Manchester City and the Nick Cox from Manchester United have not joined us yet. So new people, it doesn't matter at that level. You're sussing each other out, aren't you?
Of course.
What makes you work, and there's probably compromises, even though Moyes has got the last word. There's still going to be compromises there, and I think that's undoubtedly not hindered us, but that's probably caused some issues. Well, from what Moyes is saying there, possibly has. I do think in all this, by the way, I think I said this. I think Talbot did a really good job.
I mean, I've seen a couple of people saying we shouldn't have got rid of Thelwell, but
it's an interesting thought, isn't it? Because I don't think Thelwell and Moyes would have not so bad fellows. But and I'm just talking about like getting deals over the line and the type of players that we're getting, and having, you know, some of the deals we set up were so hard sell, weren't they? You know, we'll pay you back over 5 years and things like that. You know, it's a hard sell if you're trying to buy somebody. I think Thelwell did a good job in that context. But hopefully,
are we starting to settle now on some of the players that we might be able to get over the line?
You would think so.
In terms of, we've gone for a quality level of player up there. Are we now kind of, okay, we can't get that, we'll come in for like Diblin, Dewsbury Hall? Is that how you would see it?
Yeah,
or?
I think so. Yeah, absolutely.
Nothing wrong in that, I guess.
No. But it's, I think at the moment, as I said last week, didn't I, that at some point, and we're probably going to have to do this twice, where you get this player where you can't afford to sign him, but you can't afford not to sign him even more. And I think we'll probably end up doing that on a couple of players. You know, I think Fellaini was one, wasn't it, where they went completely overboard, where they paid a lot more than what they thought they wanted to pay because they just wanted them. And I think there's probably going to be 2 players we bring in between now and the end of the transfer window where we've probably done what you've said, paid them a little bit more than what we needed just to get the bums on the seat.
That's most of the transfers that teams make, though, isn't it? Usually. Yeah. You might get the odd bargain, but
you have an idea, don't you? We'll pay your ability. We'll pay you this. You know, that much, and wages and that much transfer fee. But you know what? You're not accepting that. But we really, really need you. So we're going to have to spend a little bit more. You know.
I think you can be critical of Moyes or the recruitment team negotiation process in terms of signing these players, but I've seen fans themselves, to use James McAtee as an example again, go, well, I wouldn't pay 35 million for him. And it's kind of like, well, if you're saying that, the club must be thinking this as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just back and forth all the time of what you were going to pay for this player.
You don't know what goes on behind closed doors. There's a hell of a lot of work going on.
A player is worth what the buying club is willing to pay for them at the end of the day.
Rather than what the selling club is willing to sell for. And what the player wants in wages. Players' wages are the big thing, aren't they? So yeah, we'll see. There's a lot of work going on, I think. But what we can say is Moyes' noises yesterday, as I say that quickly, were a bit more positive, weren't they? Which was long overdue, I think.
Just to finish off as a positive on this segment, before we go into the women's team and Everton ticket prices, which we'll talk about very quickly. Since Moyes came in, 19 Premier League games.
8 wins, 7 draws, 4 defeats, isn't it?
The projected table within their 19 games, Everton were 9th. And for me, we've kept the core group of players who made an impact to get us there.
Yeah.
We've lost the Corday. Probably you could say he had an impact, but he didn't score that many goals. He didn't create that many assists. Calvert-Lewin barely played under Moyes. So you can't. I don't think you can use him as a good example.
Just go back to your discussion last week.
Okay.
Points, yeah.
What I'm trying to say is also Young as well. You'd probably say he
should have kept him.
But he's a 39-year-old Ashley Young. We're going off on a tangent. All I wanted to say was that I'm positive that with this group of players that we've got now, with the addition of the right signings and a couple of loans in,
and Moyes' management.
Yeah, I'm not convinced, but I'm confident that the evidence is there to say that we could get in and around, 9th and 10th again, and that's got to be progression.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's tough about getting into Europe and stuff, but I do think there'll be a few teams this season who'll be less effective than what they were last season in that middle of the table because of Europe. And Areola was saying, wasn't he, similar to Moyes yesterday, wasn't he, that they don't feel he's ready for the start of the Premier League, which is interesting because they've shifted a few players out, haven't they, Bournemouth? So yeah, I agree, but we've got to get ourselves moving in the old transfer market, haven't we, over the next few weeks?
Yeah,
I just hope Moyes' positivity was is well intentioned. There's a bit of
I'm sure it is. Maybe not feeling the pressure. I don't think that's right, but he's just feeling the personal aspect.
Yeah, he's huge experience. It's just that there was a bit of old school management last week that I don't think actually in the modern game sits well.
But I just think we've had so many ups and downs when it comes to backroom staff in terms of recruitment. You just don't want you don't want the boat to be rocked this early on.
There's a bit of friction between the decision makers.
I think it's a good word to use. You don't want that early on.
No. Because that's where you need a strong leader.
It just doesn't end well, does it?
That's what Angus Kinnear's there for, isn't he?
Okay, Everton tickets and Everton women's team first. So
Yeah.
I'll just read a segment from our Business of Football writer Dave's Pal article from last week. So Everton owners, the Freakin Group, have sold the club's women's team to a sister company. The move will generate tens of millions in paper profits for the Toffees, in a move similar to what Chelsea did last year in selling their women's team to a related company at a valuation of near £200 million, 17 times revenue. The Toffees have sold Everton Football Club Women Limited to a holding company called Roundhouse Capital Holdings, a company owned and controlled by the Freakin Group chief Dan Freakin. The move was confirmed by Companies House last week, and it is understood that the move was ratified at fair market value by the Premier League and the Women's Super League. So a lot of debate as to whether Everton have done a Chelsea, but I can only take, reliable Dave Powell at, face value here. It looks like we've done a
Stadium
Chelsea.
as well is involved in, Goodison's involved in that as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Roundhouse, it's now moved on, hasn't it, to the Everton Women's, whatever it is, organisation. They had to do 2 transfers, didn't they?
Yeah.
Obviously,
this is just a move to help with PSR and spending money.
Also, as well, their argument was that it will help investments in the women's team only.
Obviously,
separate
that's probably
identity
the primary.
and selling the ground, the women's team as one. Though how much that benefits Everton ongoing is debatable. Yeah, inevitable. This the price of Chelsea was quite interesting. I think there's a thought, isn't it, that actually the growth of women's football it means that you're not. If you sell a football club now, it's based on its value now, isn't it? And I don't think the Chelsea's been agreed yet, has it? The value of the Chelsea deal being agreed. Yeah. But you're basically selling it on the basis of how much it's going to be worth in the future, and it's going to be worth in 10 years' time, that type of thing. So it will be interesting to see what the valuation for the women's team is, the Everton's women's team, to be honest with you. And the ground as well, in terms of will it reflect future anticipated revenues? Because I think it's going to be 20,000. Whether they fill 20,000, don't know, but you can't say never, can you? I think that the value of it will not be the value as the women's team at the moment. It'll be the value of it in 10 years' time. That's what they'll argue. I think that's what Chelsea argued. So, and when it's saying like it's 17 times their normal revenue, what they're saying back in them is like years to come, the revenue's going to be easy higher than what they've got at the moment, and that's reflected in the value of the team. So yeah, it'd be inevitable this, and just see how it pans out. It's just the Freakins acknowledge, don't they, and being American owners, that women's football should be far more high profile than what it currently is. That's the way Americans view it. So yeah, inevitable really this move. Really, it's a bit complicated the way you've seen all the transactions in Companies House. It's a bit complicated, but
I avoid it all, to be honest.
Yeah.
I just read Dave's article, and that's enough for me.
That's enough. Yeah. There's two moves, but yeah.
If it benefits us from a PSR point of view,
but we lose the future revenues, don't they? In Freakins to get there, but the women's team now falls out of the Everton hierarchy, doesn't it?
Yes, that's how I understand it.
Yeah. So that revenue is separate. That's like more the Freakin territory. But yeah, it's an interesting move, taking us into well territory that I think other clubs will do, won't they? Selling off women's teams, stadia. That's why they all voted. Like they had that vote, didn't they, to try and block what Chelsea did. That's why clubs voted against it, didn't they? That they still want that option in the future of selling assets outside the group to create paper profits.
Benefits teams, doesn't it?
That paper profits for PSR purposes, and that's why, as much as supporters don't like it, because it's looked a bit of cheating. Well, the clubs aren't soft. They want to be that action themselves in the future, or at least giving them an opportunity to do it.
We've got time to speak about tickets, or
it's time to talk about ticket prices.
Obviously, Everton announced individual match day ticket prices last week. The highest, from what I can see, being £75 for a Category A game, and that is in the East and West stands. South stands adult ticket prices can be between £60 to £71, with youth, that is 14 years old to 21 years old. Price category introduced in the lower rail seating stand section. New edition starting from £45. I'm going to read every single criteria out. You can obviously go on the Everton website to check all that out, but I guess it is a bump in, increase in price as to what you would have paid for Goodison, but I mean, got a little bit of apathy towards it because I just feel like, I understand prices have got to go up, but it's also a point of myself personally, just accepting it because, well, other teams are doing it. We've got a new stadium, we're doing it, but it's like...
Still think it's too high?
I just think it's fine for someone who can afford it, and if you can't afford it, then it's not.
The season tickets were, I think, lower than what people were expecting, weren't they? Was the general feedback. 75 quid.
So that's for the Category A game, East and West Stand, which is obviously going to be the primary, primary stands where you get.
And then that's lower for Category B. Is it 3 categories? Was there 8?
So Category C is 65, Category B is 70. So
there's not a lot of difference between B and
C. And I guess someone made a good point. I think it was Connor last week said the club could determine what is Category A and B themselves. So Newcastle, I guess, because they're in the Champions League, that could be deemed as a Category A game now.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe previously it would have been maybe...
Fella Category A game, something like that, isn't it, really? Yeah, no, I mean, it's inevitable. I saw a lot of this last week and, scanning on social media, and there's so much that... This is one of the things, diverse views, isn't it, with fans. Some fans take the line, I totally get it. 75 quid, just in your head, 75 quid's too much to
Can you imagine paying that every single game if you were lucky enough in the ballot? I mean, the ballots are... we're not going to talk about the ballot now. We can talk about the ballot, but this new process of getting a ticket, that's changed things as well. You've got
membership and then you go into a ballot. So 75 quid is some supporters, were saying that's too high, blah, blah, blah. But other fans say, well, we've got a new stadium, we've got to pay for it, and we want money. It's about like transfers and bringing players in, that's what we've got to pay. There's a balance to be struck there, isn't it? And this is always going to be, and I've always said this thing, haven't I? And why the ticket prices is this was always going to be the Freegans' biggest challenge with Everton, is a club that has been quite close and understood the needs of its fan base in terms of where it's from. Let's face some of the most economically poorest areas in Britain. Let's face it, we've got to be candid about that, haven't we? And that Everton always reflected that in the ticket prices of Goodison, and also the fact that Goodison, the facilities were not great. It was always going to be a challenge, and the biggest challenge for the Freakins was saying, well, we've got a new stadium, it's got to be paid for it. That model that we had at Goodison won't work, so we're going to lose money. So we've got to change it. And that was being charging 70 quid a ticket. That was always going to be the biggest problem, I think, is... And as well expanding the commercial activities and all this type of stuff. And that is totally different to the Everton culture at Goodison. And, and there's still forwards and against that within the fan base, isn't it? Really. It's not new, this. You've seen the article I sent you, didn't I, put on? This happened in the 70s.
Yeah.
Where they tried to be over-commercialised the club and a lot of fan base didn't want it. Some did, some won, and they got onto the club and they criticised the club heavily when they brought in the, what was the 300 and 500 club and all this, and loads of adverts around the ground. People didn't want it, as well as paying more money for ticket prices. And history repeats itself in football, and it's repeating itself now. And it's always going to be the challenge, isn't it? Ultimately, you get the impression just generally in football now, and I'm not just talking about Everton here, what they want, rather than having 19 games in the Premier League with the same people going and stuff, they want effectively the equivalent of 19 Taylor Swift concerts, don't they? Where you've got different people who...
Hence the ballot process.
Who on that day might only go, we'll pay a lot more, like in terms of food, drink, all that type of thing.
Exactly.
Merchandise and all that type of stuff. They want 19 separate entities, separate games as separate entities, don't they? For business purposes, like I say, 19 Taylor Swift concerts, but it's all different people go to each one, and that's where you think that's where the game's heading. That's where they don't really like season ticket holders in a lot of clubs. We've got quite a few, and that's reflected in the price, isn't it? If you're going twice a season or 3 times a season, then you pay 75 quid, won't you? Well,
the biggest thing that you haven't even mentioned so far is the product on the pitch,
and
how that will, determine whether the demand for tickets will stay.
I mean, if you were being, I was going to say, Category A games in 22-23 probably be Bournemouth, Leicester, that type of thing, Burnley, Yeah, and that's it. They'll pay for the the Category A games, and that's good if they're doing well. But if they're struggling, different kettle of fish, isn't it?
Well, that's why things need to change
everything
on the pitch.
A set of good results on the park, and the team going places can. We've seen this Everton, haven't we? Because we've had a bit of problems off the pitch, haven't we, over the years? If you get results on the pitch, that can cover over a wealth of issues off the pitch, can't it? But this is modern football for you, isn't it, really?
I mean this is a bit of a separate topic, but the seat unique, tickets that people can buy, they're astronomical in themselves, and that's fine. That's what the club kind of need to do to make the money, and I think fans are just a little bit more accepting of it because of the case. But as I said, it's only fine if you can. It's only people who say, "Oh well, it's fine." They can afford those tickets.
Yeah.
There's people out there who desperately go the game. There's people out there who haven't got a season ticket who, in the past, have probably been able to go to every single game.
Yeah,
because they've had.
Because you pay 40 quid or something like that.
Well, even the price, but because the more games you go, the more loyalty points that you build up. Now, that is completely gone. There's some people who
that
can't.
Can be fair, though, can't it? The counter to that is that gives more opportunities for more people to go, doesn't it? Really?
Well, yeah, that's the counter. There's people who've built up so many loyalty points over the years.
Yeah, I'm not sure, by the way, that the stadium capacity then comes into it, because I think if you there's an argument to say that if you put an extra 10,000 seats there, the prices will be higher, because building the final 10,000 is the most expensive part of the ground. So if we had another 10,000 seats on and built a stadium and have to have a bigger land and all this type of stuff, it'll probably raise prices, not bring them down. So yeah, it's just modern football. But this, you can see, this is the way American owners think, don't they? If you have a lot of American sports, certainly like the NFL, it is games as separate entities in itself, and an event. So you've got 19 separate events, not a season of 19 games, and that's reflected in the pricing, isn't it? And that's just the modern world, really. It's worldwide. But Goodison did 20% of fans of Goodison paid £10 or less. Again, because we had really good season ticket prices for under 18s and all that type of thing.
Yeah, I think what fans spend in the stadium now will improve and increase, because you're going to be able to stay after the game now in certain stands, aren't you? And that'll be better for certain fans who are trying to get home, willing to stay, and that only benefits
the clue there is make sure that the aisle in the stadium is cheaper than what it is in the pub outside, isn't it? It's keep it in the ground. I just know it's very much uncharted territory in the modern era for Everton, this, isn't it?
Well, with that being the
comments
case,
on it about this?
We are getting comments. I think we've got time to go through them. I know you got to get off, Gav. I think what I will say is, I think we should revisit this on the pod.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
Maybe, I don't know whether we dedicate a whole podcast to it. We just make sure that we've got enough time to discuss it in detail with Joe, Chris, or maybe get Dave Powell on or something like that as well.
Yeah. Well, it's the change in nature of football, isn't it? And entertainment is going. They want it to be like going to see Oasis, isn't it? Going to see a home game
every single time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Any final thoughts before we?
No, that can run and run. That ticket thing. Well, it's going to hold commercialisation of Everton, isn't it? I think you've probably only seen the start. I mean, my suspicions are that I think the season ticket, not bad news, and I could be totally wrong here. I think the season tickets were kept down deliberately last year. I think next season, I think you might see a bigger increase. Well, because there's a big disparity between the season ticket prices and buying 19 seats at 70 quid a time.
Yeah, I mean, I've just done the maths there. So even if the minimum price, say you've sat in the South Stand, £65, if you managed to be lucky enough to go to every single home game, you would pay just over 1,200 quid. Whereas season tickets now for that, I think I paid, it was in the 700 pound region. So, but naturally, individual match day tickets have always been more expensive anyway.
No, but that's quite a big disparity.
It's a big jump. It is a big jump.
Yeah. Anyway, no, that's I can see both sides. I'm sitting on the fence here. Both sides of the argument. No, this is the future of football.
We'll definitely bring it back up again in the pod. Just to let you know, so for those who watch live on the YouTube channel, I'm not here Wednesday or Thursday, so I'm hoping that there's going to be a show tomorrow. I'm just trying to figure out who's going to be on.
Let's just transfer people in. You make some bids for people.
We've got no budget for that.
No budget. Yeah, I gathered that. Yeah. Free transfer.
No, there's no deals in the offing for anything like that.
You got to come across all Moyes here now. On the
What I'll say is, I'll be totally honest. It's either going to be Chris, who's in America, but I need to contact him, and the time difference is obviously not the best. Or Paul Wheelock. It could be in in-house office pod. So I need to speak to Paul to see if he's available.
Podcast recruitment has stalled then, to quote Moyes.
Well, I can assure you that if that doesn't happen tomorrow on Tuesday, we've definitely got a pod on Friday.
Are we still number one, by the way?
The Roma game.
And that's a selling point.
Of course.
For podders. Are we still number one on the podcast list?
Always.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, we will leave it for there for today's show. Cool. Please remember to give us a like and subscribe to the channel. I do apologise for not being able to read out some of the comments, and make sure that we do that tomorrow if we get on the live show. I guess
thanks to everybody for commenting.
Absolutely. Okay, well, enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of your week. Thanks to Gav for coming on. I've been Ian Croll, and this has been the Royal Blue Podcast.